this is not normal weather for San Diego. The tournament seems to bring out the worst of San Diego weather. It's been very windy and cold, but besides that, yeah, I'm excited to play. This was my home course in high school, and it's always nice to be out here in La Jolla, or near La Jolla, I should say, and it's a very special place for me.
And you haven't finished outside the top 25 on the PGA Tour since June. What's been the key to that consistent play, and what's the state of your game right now coming into the week?
I think it's just an all around approach. I got sick this off season with COVID, so I wasn't really able to attack or make a big leap towards the jump in distance and bulking up and all that good stuff. So I've been back to sort of my own guns and trying to do what I do best, which is sort of an all around approach. And I think that's bared some pretty good fruit in certain results. But yeah, I'm pretty aware Torrey Pines has not been a place that's been too kind to me. Even though I love playing here, I missed a cut last year. I have missed many cuts here in my career, so I look forward to the challenge and on both courses here, north and south, and trying to prepare my game to the best of my ability.
All right, we will open it up to questions at this time. If you have a question, please type your name in the chat window. See, we have a couple. We will start with Bryce Miller of the San Diego Union Tribune. Go ahead, Bryce.
Hey, Xander, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Welcome back. You kind of hinted at this, but I think last year you were in the top 25 in 18 out of 20 events, and the only cut you missed was at the Farmers. What is the history of the struggles here in your mind, and how unusual is it, given the familiarity, this is your home course?
Yeah, I mean, as weird as this may sound, I've consistently been sick. This is the first year I haven't. I mean, I got COVID, but I mean, I guess I'll put a little asterisk next to that. And fortunately, it was early. But the last couple of years, I was sick in January. It's just kind of a time of year. I've been working pretty hard with my team to figure out why this time of year, when it gets cold here, I get sick often and kind of in bad shape. So I think that's been a big factor into my performance, just not being fresh. Even though I'm coming off my off season, I should be the freshest I should be, or I can be, and we've been factoring that in, and so I feel much better now, getting back to full strength, and definitely, like I said, looking forward to the challenge here at Torrey.
You had the great start recently, the 3 top 5s and 6th in the world and 7th in the money, and you're consistently won 4 times on tour. You're consistently right there. What's the biggest key in your mind? What part of your game to breaking through and getting another win? I
mean, that's kind of it. You can look at stats, and which I do. I sort of kind of how I benchmark my goals, and I achieve some of the goals on paper in terms of sort of nitty gritty statistical goals, but for the most part, the ultimate goals are win tournaments. And I think my rookie year, I kind of won twice, kind of quickly. Wasn't really sure how I did it. I just sort of played really free, and my goal that year, the following, was to be more consistent and to put myself in contention more. So now that I'm sort of getting more comfortable out here and playing better, I realize it doesn't really matter sort of how good your stats look or kind of how good you're playing. It's sort of, I think for me, getting back to that sort of free thought process, kind of me having fun, and I am trying to compete at the highest level, but I think I do that when I'm sort of in open headspace.
Thank you.
Next, we will go to Steve DeMaglio, USA Today. Go ahead, Steve.
Xander, a couple of things. Are you playing next week in Phoenix?
I am.
Do you have any concerns about the fact that it's going to be the first tournament back with significant amount of fans, with supposed to have about 5,000 fans per day? Your thoughts on that?
I mean, relative to how the tournament normally plays, I think it'll feel like there's no one out there. I personally am not concerned. I feel like the tour does a really good job of sort of keeping. I haven't seen the structures put up or sort of where people are allowed to walk or how close they're allowed to get to us. But I'm sure, normally a Saturday is 250 to 275,000 fans out there, and cutting that down to 5,000 fans blocked off in certain areas, I'm pretty sure most of the players are going to feel safe.
And outside of this tournament, do you play a lot of golf at this time when it's cold out here in San Diego? And what are the keys to playing in this type of weather?
I do. I've been playing a lot, just trying to get back into sort of what I like to call just getting my golf IQ back, sort of just making things easy on myself mentally when I play. So the last week I've been playing a lot. It wasn't this cold. It was starting to get a little chilly, but I think the biggest thing is just trying to keep your body warm. 50 degrees isn't too cold in all honesty, but when you kind of sit around and wait a little bit, your body does tighten up just enough to make you feel uncomfortable. So I think just preparation in terms of feeling warm and packing and dressing correctly is kind of key.
Thanks, big man.
All right, next we'll go to Rex Hoggard of Golf Channel.
Xander, I apologize. I'm sure you've answered this before, but when was the first time you attended this tournament as a kid?
As a kid, I mean, most memorable was Tiger in '08. Stood by a tree that has now fallen. But probably not. I mean, in '08 I was, 15? So probably when I was 13, maybe, teenager. So 13
by
ish.
18?
Sorry?
The tree was on 18?
Yeah, when Tiger made his famous putt to get into the playoff with Rocco, I was there in that sort of arena-like thing, which is my most memorable experience here at Torrey Pines.
And kind of a different question. I know you played on an American team. Do you have any thoughts on Davis Love getting next year's captaincy for the President's Cup?
That is pretty far ahead. I think that's a really easy pick for us on the U.S. side. Davis is he's sort of done everything correctly to become a captain, I think. I mean, if I had to think off the top of my head, he definitely would be up there. And he's just a really good guy. I don't know him very well, but all the people that do know him speak very highly of him. So it's not very surprising. It seems like a no-brainer for us.
Thanks, Xander.
Todd Leonard next. Go ahead, Todd.
Hey, Xander, good to see you.
What's going on?
Couple for you. You're playing with Phil the first two rounds of this week, also with Jordan. How many rounds have you played with Phil outside of tournament golf here in San Diego? I know it's got to be a lot at the Grand. And are you in the black or in the red on the ledger?
Phil and I actually have just recently played a lot. I think quarantine was sort of the first time when we were back and allowed to play. We played the Farms, Rancho Santa Fe a lot. We've played the Grand a couple times, over at his home course in Rancho Santa Fe a few times. So I have played a lot with Phil. I mean, fortunately for me, he wasn't in peak performance when we did play. So I was able to sort of, take him on a few times. But he's Phil the Thrill. It's always a real treat for me to play with him, and I still learn a lot from playing with him around the greens, and sort of his passion for golf and his mentality is pretty cool to see at his age. So I am looking forward to this week.
Is it almost just as fun to play with him in those kind of casual money rounds as it is in a tournament?
I think it's almost more fun. I mean, in those casual rounds, there's no microphones or anything, so pretty much everything flies in terms of talking smack to each other. So he can talk, and he backs it up pretty well. So when you play in those things, you definitely want to be on his team, because he'll kind of come after you if you're not on his team. But it's like I said, it is a real treat, and it's probably more fun to play at a course just for less money.
And then just to follow up on U.S. Open prep, this hasn't been the best venue for you so far as a pro, but how much will you be noting things any more than you have in the past because of the Open this year, and knowing that you will be there?
I think I have had success in U.S. Open, so I think I need to sort of turn my attention to that on a positive versus looking at how I haven't played well at Torrey Pines. I mean, I'm expecting the course to be different and more U.S. Open-like, even though Torrey Pines is obviously a real test of golf on a normal day or any day, But if it's U.S. Open set up and everything, I have had success. So I'm just going to try and trick my brain into telling myself I do really well at these. It doesn't really matter. Like this is a new course for me. Like this is all new. So I might kind of take that approach to it.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Next, we will go to Darnay Tripp, NBC7.
Hey, Xander. Good to see you.
What's
Hope
going
you're
on?
doing well. Obviously, you guys are used to playing in front of empty courses, no galleries at this point. Curious your perspective, what it's like for this event. Usually a lively crowd, and for you, I know they're not allowing a lot of family and kind of support staff like they have in previous events. What it'll be like for you, not kind of having the familiar faces beyond just kind of the big crowd that you're used to when you're here.
Yeah, it's sad. You know, I this is my hometown, and I did grow up here, and so I do know a lot of people that come out and support me and like to come to this tournament to sort of, you know, watch me play and sort of catch up. And it is a bummer, and you know, for whatever reason, people always say it's hard to play at home, and I'm going to try and, you know, like everything else, make it a positive, and maybe this is sort of the kickstart I need, or a kick in the head I need to sort of have no one there, no distractions, and take advantage of the fact that it'll just be really quiet and it's just myself on the golf course and, you know, my caddy and everyone else, versus sort of, you know, seeing everyone that I know and familiar faces. So, you know, like I said, I haven't had much success here, and, you know, I'm looking forward to changing that. And if it's my first time without fans, then so be it.
And just curious, like, how do you assess, or what's your level of satisfaction with this run that you're on, where you're pretty much an auto top 10, top 25 week in and week out, but the wins haven't come like they came early in your career? How do you kind of weigh those? What's your level of satisfaction when you have had such a strong streak of results?
Yeah, it's tricky. You know, the better you play, the higher expectations go, and winning is the ultimate goal. I think winning would be very satisfying. You know, there are such things as better top tens than others, and vice versa. So I think, to me, mentally, you know, I'm not super satisfied with everything that I've done. It's nice to be playing consistent golf. I did want to do I wanted to do that, you know, a couple years ago, and now I'm doing it, but it's not really everything I dreamed of. Like I said, you know, everyone talks about winning. It kind of just dangles right there in front of your face, and everyone's chasing the same thing. So it's only going to get harder and harder to win out here, and I'm just trying to stay more and more patient.
Thanks, Xander. Good luck this week.
Thanks.
Mark Ziegler with the Union Tribune. Go ahead.
Xander, you mentioned the U.S. Open setup. Specifically, how is this course going to be different when you play the U.S. Open in June?
I think there'll be smaller fairways, maybe firmer. Greens will be different, firmer, and I'd say just the mow lines. I mean, I think they can kind of trick up the pins a little if they really want to, but for the most part, typical U.S. Opens are really firm greens and smaller fairways and thicker rough. It's kind of been their go-to move, and I don't see why they do otherwise. I mean, during 08, when I was watching it here, it was, you know, it was very thick rough. They just let it go, and if you're playing on a casual weekend with your buddies, you're going to have a pretty fun time searching for your ball, you know, just 10 feet off the fairway.
And how do you play it differently? I mean, are there, you know, do you take different clubs off the tee, maybe on different holes because of the mow lines?
I don't know. You know, I think I'll figure that out when I get to that stage. But for the most part, it just makes it tougher. You know, you just have to. You can't get away with anything, which is why U.S. Opens are so difficult to win. You have to be better than everyone else and be on top of your mental game more than anyone else. And I think when it gets kind of tricky and tough is sort of when I like to sort of buckle down and put my head down and kind of get to work. So. You know, maybe I need to keep that mindset for this week here instead of sort of being relaxed, being in my hometown here, and sort of treat it the way as if it was a U.S. Open. You know, maybe that's something I need to think about.
And last thing, Mark Leishman earlier today said that the thing he's looking for when he's kind of keeping one eye towards June are the breaks on the greens and not so much the speed, but just the breaks, being a seaside course. If you were giving advice to a player maybe hasn't played here a lot and is trying to prepare mentally for the U.S. Open here, would you give similar advice, or is there something else that you would say you should keep an eye on?
Is he saying breaks as in different from this week or a normal week at the U.S. Open?
He's saying that that he's just trying to get the brakes on the green for the U.S. Open. He said the speed may change, but he thinks the brakes will be pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, with a more firm and a speed change, the greens are sneaky. You know, you don't really realize how undulated some of the greens are. So I would have to agree with Leachman, in fact, that, you know, if they're rolling at 10 right now and U.S. Open time, they're going to be firm in 13. I think the breaks are going to be very different. If you're someone that putts off of memory, if you had a really good putting week this week and you sort of saw all your lines really well, come June, I think those lines might be a little different because you're going to be hitting the ball a little softer. It's going to be taking a little more break. It's going to be on the ground a little longer. So I would have to agree with Mark saying figuring out your lines for June would probably be the most important thing.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Xander, those are all the questions we have. We appreciate your time and best of luck this week.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, guys.